Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Agent P, aka Leonard Pinckney, here for episode 60. Episode 60, man, of the Good Look podcast. Can't believe it. We had 60 episodes. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you for listening to this. If you're listening to it at the Good Look Pod on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, my YouTube page as well, is where you'll find not just like these full recaps, but obviously you'll have some shorts in there as well. So appreciate you for listening, and we're going to go ahead and get into a lot of different hoop talk tonight. We're going to talk about I want to start with the women's game. Women's college basketball is real this year, y'all, and if you ain't watching it, then you need to start watching it, because there's some really good basketball being played and really cool things happening with the women's game right now. I can't remember a year of women's college basketball being this popular at this point in the season. We're coming off a great women's NCAA tournament, and the season has started off incredible so far. Let's start with just Iowa and Virginia Tech. That was number 3 versus number 8. Caitlin Clark, everybody know about Caitlin Clark. She a real one. But the other story in this game was Georgia Amore. Shout out to Georgia Amore, guard for Virginia Tech. She was hooping against Caitlin. We'll start with Caitlin. Caitlin had 44, 8, and 6. Man, if you ain't seen her hoop, I'm telling you, please go watch Caitlin Clark hoop. It is an experience. She's the best player in college basketball. It's gonna be dope when she goes to the next level, but enjoy this senior year with her at Iowa. She has a solid team around her. I don't think it's as good as last year's team. They lost a couple of starters, but Caitlin Clark is really that good, and her alone is the reason why they're ranked number 3 in the country. So. But going into this game was a lot of back and forth, and the person who really stood out was Georgia Amore. She's a guard on Virginia Tech. She had 31 points, and she hit 7 threes in the game. Like, she was coming off of screens, ready to shoot. Form looks incredible. She hit a buzzer beater at the end of the first quarter from half court. She's the reason they were in the game. She even cramped up towards the end of the game and still was able to get some shots off and keep them in it. And Virginia Tech had their own big girl who was an All-American as well. So, man, very talented squad. And I talked about it last week. We have people like Juju and Paige Becker's coming back. There's a lot of talent around here, man. And just look at LSU. They had a freshman, Michaela Williams. She went off for 42 points. 42 points, and LSU record most points by a freshman in LSU history. There's just a lot of great things happening in women's college basketball now. I really encourage you to watch. It'll be worth your time, I promise you. I want to give a quick shout out to Kelly Oubre, man. Everyone heard the news this week, unfortunately. Now it's starting to get refuted, which is a little bit weird to me. But the original story is that he just got hit by a car near his house. Fractured ribs, had a lot of other injuries too. It says he's not going to be out for the year, but he's going to be out for some time. So shout out to Kelly Oubre, who's having a great start for the season with Philly, so that's unfortunate. But hopefully he's just able to recover from his injuries, kind of like if this was, a basketball injury, and come back and still be a productive player this season, because this year he was having a great year, man. Other standout performances from the week, I'm going to start with Tyrese Maxey, who had 50 points against the Pacers. He also chipped in 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks. The diminutive guard with 3 blocks as well. Maxey has been on a tear, man. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later on in this show, but he's been incredible to start this season. I'm really proud of him and really happy to see how he's elevated his game after they got rid of James Harden. Tyrese Halliburton gets the other look for a standout look this week. I talked about him last week, but he just keeps making me talk about him, man. This dude is hooping at an incredibly high level. He's playing the point guard position the way it needs to be played from a modern standpoint. In 2 games, they played Philly back-to-back this week. Won one, lost one. The one they won was in the in-season tournament, so that was a pretty big deal for them. Tyrese Halliburton in 2 games back-to-back against Philadelphia. 58 points, 32 assists, and 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers, dog. 0 turnovers for Tyrese Halliburton, man. The Tyreses this week have been absolutely incredible. They've been incredible to start this entire season, y'all. Indiana is still number 1 in offensive rating in the league. They got like 122 rating right now. It's insane. And it's nice to see Indiana have some good hoop again. I mean, they haven't been relevant really since Paul George was there. It was fun seeing PG have those battles with LeBron back in the day. But now they've had a slight resurgence here, and they have a really fun team. A team that gets up and down the floor. Rick Carlisle just lets these guys shoot, do whatever they need to do, move the ball, push it. And Tyrese is the perfect catalyst to lead this team. He's going to be he's already pushing to be an All NBA selection. He's going to be an All Star again, no question. I'm great. I'm happy to see the leap from this kid. I enjoy watching him play, and shout out to Indiana for making that trade, man. A lot of teams wouldn't have been bold enough to give up a guy who was established like Sabonis, who was actually a good player for them. It just ended up not being a great fit with Miles Turner, but now with this move, it's been able to shift things around a little bit, and now they've turned into the best offense rating-wise in the league. So shout out to Indiana, and of course, shout out to their leader, Tyrese Halliburton. My guy, Coach Michael Malone of the Denver Nuggets got himself a 2-year extension. Woj tweeted about it a couple days ago. It's going to make him one of the highest paid coaches in the league, and I believe it's well-deserved. Michael Malone isn't a coach that is really known for the X's and O's. People don't really talk about him in that regard, but he's a guy that motivates. He's a guy that knows how to put guys in the right positions, both mentally and out on the court. He knows how to press the right buttons with the media. He knows when to play the underdog role. He knows when to light a fire under his team. These are all intangible things with a coach that you can't just quantify when you talk about a team's pace or their defensive rating or something like that. Coaching has a lot of different each coach has their own strong suits, and each coach has their own intangibles that are either positive or negative. And what I like about Coach Malone is that he's just the right kind of fire for this team. The Denver Nuggets aren't really a rah-rah team. They ain't got nobody that's really talking mad crazy out the side of their neck that's talking mad shit. Like, they're a team that just likes to play the right way. They're led by Jokic, obviously, so they just like to play basketball the right way. And Michael Malone is kind of that extra oomph, If we don't have a lot of guys who got a lot of bark, Coach Malone is that guy to be there. And every team needs it. Every team needs a little bit of something, right? A team can't be all choir boys. A team can't be all rough riders. It has to kind of be somewhat of a little bit of a mix, And I think Coach Malone provides that from the coaching position, which is interesting enough, not coming from a player. So that extension is going to run for 2 more years after his current deal. So he has 2 years on his current deal right now, going to run 2 more. So we're talking 2026-27 season. So he's here for the stretch run, man. And as a Nuggets fan, there have been some times, man, you talk about probably 2020, 2021, that first year after Jamal Murray got injured and that transition year from the bubble. It's like, is this the guy? Is he the coach? And I think if the Nuggets didn't win a title this past season, then it would have started to be a question. It would have been, I think it would have been a Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr situation, because Mark Jackson obviously was a good coach, wasn't really known for his X and O's either, but was a good motivator and was good for Steph and Clay, and so good that they were able to make some noise a little bit in the playoffs. But management really wasn't messing with him, and it seemed like there was a ceiling for how great he could really be, right? So they ended up bringing in Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr ends up opening up the offense, and the rest is history, man. And maybe Mark Jackson would have been able to do that too. In the first season, they obviously caught breaks with Kyrie and Kevin Love going down in the finals. But Steve Kerr, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. He's able to win 4 titles with this Golden State team during this dynastic run. And I don't know if Mark Jackson's able to do that. So that was a question I feel like a lot of Nuggets fans had with Coach Malone. Is he going to be the one that can really put us over the top? Or is he the one that's going to be the stepping stone to somebody else? And he proved it immensely in the playoffs, and in the celebration at the parade, he was able to let his hair down figuratively and just have a blast. And I'm really happy he's the coach of this team, man. He's the guy that we need. He knows how to push all the right buttons, and congrats to him on this extension. In-season tournament, y'all, let's get an update. Teams are through their second and third games in their groups. At the group leaders at this time in the Eastern Conference, the Indiana Pacers are 2-0. The Miami Heat are 2-0. and the Boston Celtics and Brooklyn Nets sit at the top of their group. It's interesting that Brooklyn's been able to get 3 in-season tournament games already, but Boston hasn't. So Boston's only played 1. But a lot of these teams are going to start catching each other up once we get towards next week. And then we'll get really close to seeing what the point differentials are going to be and what teams are going to need in order to get to the knockout stages. Lakers in the West, or in the Western Conference, we have the Lakers and Jazz atop their group at 2-0. Denver's leading their group at 2-0, and the Minnesota Timberwolves also are 2-0. These games last Tuesday saw a lot of blowouts. Actually, this wasn't the best weekend or it wasn't the best day for the in-season tournament. Thunder won by 36, Pelicans by 21, Nets by 20, Lakers by 27. There are only 2 games that were decided by 3 points or less, and that was my Nuggets beating the Clippers once again. The Nuggets beating the Clippers by 3, and then Minnesota taking out Golden State by 3. So at this point, I'm still very much in on the in-season tournament. Like I said before, as this tournament goes on and as things start to clear up more when we get out of group play, it's going to get more competitive, and you're really going to see in games 3 and 4 for these teams what their strategies are going to be, who's going to go all in, honestly, who's going to fall back. If there's a team that's 0-3, you're going to see maybe some teams. It's funny because are you going to see teams really go all out? And I think for people who wanted this to mean more than, or understand why it doesn't mean something, or we should have some postseason incentive for this. If you're 0-3, it doesn't matter that you're mathematically eliminated from going to the knockout stage, because the game will still count for your regular season record. So it's not like you're just punting the game and it's not going to count for your record overall for the year. You still got to play hard. You still got to try to win the game because it's still a regular season win or loss on your record. So that kind of guards against teams punting the 4th game if they're mathematically out of it, which I do appreciate. And the really fun quirk about this is point differential. It was a fun thing that happened towards the end of the Lakers and Suns game. I was watching it and I was annoyed last Friday when it was like, why is Frank Vogel calling a timeout? They're down 6, like less than 2 seconds left. They can't win the game. But obviously, point differential is something that's going to play a factor here. It's going to be one of the tiebreakers if you're atop of a group when it's maybe both teams are 3-1. If multiple teams in a group are 2-2, you're talking about point differential may be the difference between you moving on in the tournament or staying back and getting eliminated. So I like how teams have taken that a little bit more seriously and just saying, hey, point differential is going to matter. We got to get all the points we can. So we're not just dribbling out the clock. We're going to get the ball, run a set, and even if we're out of it, even if we're down 8, down 9, down 6, if we're able to get that lead cut down to 3 and we get our point differential lower, that might be something that helps us out in the long run. So I appreciate the foresight there, and I like these teams paying attention to that stuff. The next games are going to happen this Friday. So if you're watching this today, it's tomorrow. We got Knicks and Wizards, Bucks and Hornets, Sixers, Hawks, Pistons, Cavs, Kings, Spurs, Celtics, Raptors, Magic, Bulls, Nuggets play the Pelicans, Blazers play the Lakers, Suns, Jazz, and to round it out, we got the Rockets and the Clippers. Now, I think the Knicks are going to win. I'm never picking the Wizards for anything. Most unserious team in the league. It's ridiculous. Bucks and Hornets going with the Bucks. They've been struggling, honestly, but Dame's been on and off, and I think they're the definition of almost a 500 team. They're 7-4 right now, but obviously prior to that, 6-4 through 10 games. You're just one game away from being a 500 team. It's their defense that's been tough for them to try to figure out at this point. So that's still a work in progress. Sixers, Hawks, going with the upset here, going with the Hawks. I got the Pistons and the Cavs. I'm going to go with the Pistons in this one. Kings, Spurs, going with the Kings. Raptors, Celtics, going with the Celtics. Magic, Bulls, I'm actually going with Orlando in this one, even though they've been bad lately. I'm going to go with Orlando. Nuggets, Pels, going with the Nuggets. Lakers over the Blazers. We'll see if Bradley Beal plays. I'm going to talk to them in a second, but I got Suns over Jazz, and then I got the Rockets taking it to the Clippers and taking them out as well. Got to talk about Draymond Green's bum ass this week. Draymond continues to be wilding, man. He was wilding all week. So he had his situation both in the Timberwolves games this week, one playing one in-season tournament and one not. The one prior to the in-season tournament, he fouled Anthony Edwards on a drive, and Ant was like, "God damn, why you fouled me? You're so hard," or whatever. And Draymond was just talking his normal shit. He's just like, "Man, you thought I was gonna give you a layup," and he just kept going and kept going. And Ant, after Draymond's talked his shit, proceeded to score 8 points for the rest of the quarter, or that fourth quarter, to close out Golden State, and they got the dub in the Bay Area. And then after that, the next game, the in-season tournament game, it all took but 1 minute, and the score being 0-0 for Klay Thompson and Jaden McDaniels to get into an altercation. And then Rudy Gobert tries to break it up. Draymond sees that Rudy grabs Klay, and that is all the opening he needed, because this is festering for a long time. It's all the time that he needed to get next to Rudy Gobert. And not did he only get next to him, he put this dude in a headlock. He had him in a chokehold like it was baby boy. That's why NBA Twitter was going crazy. He had dude in a headlock, man. He wouldn't let go. He really wouldn't let go. He was mad excessive. It was just like, all right, dog, you can maybe do that for a couple of seconds, but you could probably let go now. It looks like he's done. You can see Steve Kerr be like, "Yo, you can let him go now, man. It's okay. You can let him go." It was too much, because Draymond is always too much, and he found himself getting suspended for 5 games. Everybody else got fined. Klay, McDaniels, Gobert, all those guys got fined, but Draymond's the one who got suspended for 5 games, and the part of the reason why he got suspended for 5 games is his past behavior. And Draymond Green's gotten away with this crap for far too long. He does a bunch of dumb shit, and he gets to talk to refs however he wants to talk. And I get, to a certain extent, it's earned. And for some people, obviously their fuses are different than others. You're not going to, like any other player who's mild-mannered, like Dame isn't that kind of player. So if he gets really demonstrative, it has to be something that really bothers him. But Draymond is always on 10. So there's just levels to how you deal with players, right? And Draymond's been that kind of guy his entire career. And I've heard the takes of people saying as he gets older, obviously with the skills diminishing, he can't really get away with as much in the talking department. And I think he's going to start learning, even, hey, man, you're just not as good as you used to be. And if you keep talking and keep yapping like that, you're going to give people like Ant Edwards, who are on the come up right now, just even more incentive to try to take you out. Now, Draymond's still good enough to back it up a little bit, and obviously more so on defense and with his passing than anything else. But he's going to have to start checking himself, man. 5 games for a suspension is not a small thing, especially when you're already down Steph, and this team is trying to find its way to navigate a regular season with with their core 3 being guys all over 33 years of age. It's not a good look, and Draymond needs to be better. He needs to be better, not just on the court, but obviously in situations like that, he can't be making his team lose out on opportunities to win games. So 5 games, that's what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be 5 games. Some people were calling for 10, some were calling for 2 or 3. I thought 5 would just make the most sense, and it's spot on, right, with 5 games. I was going to talk about the Phoenix Suns, guys, because Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker were all supposed to be healthy and play yesterday, but they did. Right before, like an hour before game time, Bradley Beal got ruled out with his back again. So I understand injuries, whatever, man, but I'm just tired of the Suns right now. I'll probably try, if Bradley Beal's able to go on Friday or the next time that they play, I'll talk about him next week, but I'm just not going to do it right now. So what I am going to do is talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, they did lose their game to the Boston Celtics last night, but it's the Boston Celtics. Both of those teams were tied at the top of the East at 8-2, so I'm not going to hold it against Philly too much, although it is a really good win for Boston because they won that game without Kristaps Porzingis and without Jaylen Brown. So to do that, great performances from Jason Tatum and Derek White. And this Boston team is, when they're knocking down those threes, man, it's just really hard to beat them. And I don't think there's anyone else in the league, even still, that guards Embiid the way that Al Horford does. So, man, incredible performance from Boston. But this segment I want to talk about is for Philly for sure. Before the loss to Boston, they were the hottest team in the league. They had won 8 games in a row through 2 weeks. Philly had, or Embiid, Maxey, and Harris have all played in all 11 games this year, which is a good sign, especially for Embiid. Everyone knows about his injury history, so to see them all have a clean slate so far is a good thing. Joel leads the league in scoring. What's new? He's at 33 points a game. Dude's an animal. 12 boards and 6 assists on 50% shooting. Now, the big number here is the assists. He's obviously been connected to Jokic a lot, and that's the one thing that's been a big criticism of his game is how does he play out of double teams? How does he move the ball around? How does he impact and help his teammates besides just scoring? And in this early portion of the season so far, averaging almost 6 assists a game, you can see him the gears start to turn just a little bit. Now we're just early in the year. Joel's usually around a 3 to 4 assist guy, so I'm just holding my breath on that one because the 33 and 12 is obviously very real. On the 50% shooting, he just shoots a lot more, so his efficiency might be a little bit worse than like traditional centers. He takes tough shots, but expect that percentage to go up as well. Joel's been incredible. He was the MVP last year for a reason, man, and I'm not going to hate on that award for him. I thought he deserved it, and I'm a Nuggets fan. I know what Jokic did in the last month of the season. I know, and I know everybody knows about the postseason. I get it. I know Joel's still a great player, so I'm not trying to take too much away from him. And I still appreciate watching him play, man. I'm not into like all the hate back and forth. I understand. I know Jokic is the better player. Like you don't have to tell me that, but I still can appreciate Joel's game, and I will continue to do so. But the big story for Philly so far this year is Tyrese Maxey. This kid is making the leap right before our very eyes, man. He's averaging 28 points a game, shooting 43% from 3 and chipping in 5 boards and 7 assists. He's also shooting 49% from the field and 94% from the free throw line. So your boy's one tick away from being a 50, 40, 90 kid. And to be that, I know numbers are a little inflated now, but to be that such early on in your career, man, Tyrese is making that leap. He's going to be an all-star this year. I don't know if he's going to be good enough to get one of the 6 guard spots as an all-NBA guy, but through 10, 11 games, man, he's been one of the 3 best guards in the league so far. You cannot deny that. The kid plays with such an incredible pace. He's so quick, so fast, and his dribble moves are impeccable. He uses that speed, and it's kind of, from a nostalgia perspective, it's fun to see a small, diminutive guard with Philadelphia across his chest play at such a high level. If you're someone like me who grew up watching Allen Iverson play, man, AI wasn't the most efficient player. He wasn't perfect. He took a lot of chances defensively, but man, he was for the culture, and he was an offensive machine. And whenever AI had the ball, he always was making a play, always making something happen. The way he made buckets, the way he moved on the court, it was just different than everybody else. So I'm happy to see Philly with a guy of that stature performing at such a high level for that team and for that city. When you play well for that city, they will support you. They are a wild fan base, and Tyrese Maxey is a kid who's built for it, man. That guy is really special, and Philly's got themselves a good one. It's funny talking about Tyrese Maxey, and it's because the reason that uptick is happening is because they got rid of James bitch-ass Harden, man. It's just that cloud hanging over that team, and the way he would drag that team down. Philly plays a lot faster than they did last year, and that's because they don't have James Harden just walking the ball up the court all the time. And James Harden's a great player, man. Obviously, we know he's a great player, but I've said it on multiple occasions. I would never want him on my team. And when it's postseason time, I especially would never want him on my team. I just could not cheer for that guy, and I would not trust him. And he's blown up multiple franchises, and you see what he's doing with the Clippers right now. They've gone 0-6 since he got there. And right now, but that's done. We don't need to talk about James Harden no more. Let's get back to Philadelphia. Philly is currently 4th in offensive rating and 10th in defensive rating, but that gives them the 3rd best net in the league at +9. A +9 differential, obviously, is a great differential to have this early in the year. And you can tell, man, just by the way that they're locking up to be a top 10 defense and to be a top 5 offense is something that's really difficult in this league. There's only a couple teams that are doing it right now. Boston and Denver being amongst the others. So that shows that you're an elite team to start this year. Everyone sees how great Boston and Denver are playing right now. So Philly is just right on the edge. And Philly did end up beating Boston earlier this year, with Boston having their full horses. So even though they lost last night to the Celtics, they've shown that they're more than capable of hanging with this team. And then you got guys like Tobias Harris, who's averaging 20, who looks comfortable as a third scorer on this team again. DeAnthony Melton, and it's a real shame about Kelly Oubre. I mentioned him earlier in the pod because he was off to a great start, averaging 16 a game. B-Ball Paul is getting some run. Paul Reed. Patrick Beverley's annoying, but sometimes he's effective, Jaden Springer is a really interesting guy. That kid plays really hard. I like seeing him getting some run with Philly. I mentioned him already. I really like DeAnthony Melton. I wish DeAnthony Melton was a Nugget, honestly. He's maybe just a little bit shorter, but he's got a long wingspan. He gets a lot of steals, and he's a great knockdown shooter. I love DeAnthony Melton as a role player for a team that's trying to contend. Philly's got some good pieces, man. And Nick Nurse, last but not least, has made an incredible impact for this team. Like I said, he's opened up the offensive game for them. He's got them pushing the ball a little bit more. And Nick Nurse is a really good coach. So I know everyone. I know a lot of like players like Doc Rivers, but I think from an X's and O's standpoint, Nick Nurse is the guy, and he's been a part of the reason why Philly's gotten out to this great start. So I anticipate it to continue. Philly was a really good team last year, even with James Harden, right? So they're going to continue to be a good team as long as Joel Embiid's able to play 60-ish games. You're expecting Tyrese Maxey to play around 70 of those games. So as long as those two stay healthy, Philadelphia is going to have a big impact this year. And the last thing I want to bring up to you guys is the San Antonio Spurs and my boy Victor Wembanyama, man. Let's run it back for me really quick. Let's go back to November 3rd, guys. So November 3rd, the San Antonio Spurs were 3-2. They were 3-2, and they looked like they were on top of the world, man. They were coming off an incredible win against Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, and it was a game where Wemby actually outplayed Kevin Durant, dog. He had his career high, a career night, 38 points against the Phoenix Suns. He looked otherworldly out there. They had played the Suns the night before, so it felt like Victor was a supercomputer almost, like he just learned what he was supposed to do in the next game. He outdueled KD for a career high night. And they were flying high, man. And there were some pundits, there were some people out there saying, hey, man, is this San Antonio Spurs team a playoff team? Can this team make the playoffs? They're 3-2. The rest of the West is a mess. This team might be able to do it. I don't know. This team might be able to do it, guys. Fast forward 12 days later, 13 days later, Spurs are 3-8. They've lost 6 games in a row, and they have given up an average of 126 points a game during that 6-game losing streak. And Victor has not been as good as he was in that Phoenix team. Now, I don't expect him to be a 38-10 guy every night, but since then, his scoring totals, he scored above 20 once, and one of them was right on the line with 20, but his point totals have been 20, 13, 14, 29, 18, and 8. And all of those performances, except for 2 of them, have come with bad shooting. We're talking 43%, 25%, 28%, 36%, 27%. Other than his 2 20-point games, we're talking about percentages being not very good. So some people were out here saying that the Spurs would be a playoff team, I was not one of them. And the reason I'm not one of them is because I watched the rest of their players. They are young and dumb as hell. And that's not a bad thing right now. These guys need the experience. They need to learn to play together. They need to figure out who's going to be the lead ball handler. They were playing Jeremy Sohan at the point right now. That's not good for Victor's development in the short term, because Sohan's not a point guard. They're just trying to mess around and figure stuff out. Honestly, I think they're trying it but also they're not mad that they're losing games because they knew they'd be bad anyway, and it's just going to get them another lottery pick anyway. But I digress. They got Jones on the team. They got Trey Jones out here who can be the point guard. And you can see when he plays, the team's a little bit more steady, but they need just a better point guard, a guy who can command this offense, tell people where to go, at what times, get people in the right positions. They don't have that right now. They just be doing dumb stuff all the time. Devin Vassell's a really talented player. I like a lot of pieces on this team, man. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, even guys like Malachi Branham. Like, these guys are good, solid NBA players, but a lot of them are young and just trying to figure out what to do in this system. And Victor Wembanyama kind of has to learn a lot of this stuff on the fly. I think Pop has said that he wants him offensively to kind of figure himself out, figure out the spots where he can be effective on the court, and defensively just keep doing what you're doing. Like, that's just what you're supposed to do defensively. He's gonna be he's already generational on that end. You can see the way he intimidates people just on jump shots coming to the lane. Victor's a different guy defensively, and his offense is something that's going to be a work in progress continually. He gets, obviously, once more tapes on him, you're able to scout, push him off his spots a little bit more, play with more physicality. If you have better personnel, you'll be able to scout and game plan for him better. And I just didn't think this team was ready to go for that whole playoff thing. I know it's the beginning of the year, right? I know it's the beginning of the season. We don't have a lot of data to go off, so people like to make broad proclamations right now. I get it, but let's just pump the brakes on the Spurs real quick. I get that they're exciting. Watching Victor is exciting, but this is a team that has a lot to learn. And even if you're talking about this team making the playoffs, guys, this was like a team that had to win at least high 30s, low 40s to get into the playoffs. You think this team was going to win high 30s, low 40s? I don't think so. But shout out to San Antonio anyway, man. I like that they have a lot of good young players. Even though I'm not so keen on all of the experimenting, I'm keen on some of it. And I like a lot of their young players. So San Antonio is going to be good in the future, man. They just need to learn, and they need to grow. And this is all this year is for, is experience for Victor. See who can play with them, who's going to go with them, and who ain't. But exciting nonetheless. Thank you guys for listening. I'm going to give you guys another song. Another one of my song requests. Song recs. I'm going to give you guys another song rec. Larry June's album just came out with Cardo. This album's called Let Me Know. Oh, sorry, it's not called Let Me Know. It's called The Night Shift. The song that I recommend is called Let Me Know. Larry June and Cardo. You know about my boy Larry June. He's just smooth ass dude, and his music is smooth as hell too. And just listen to this album. You just get in your car, turn the music on. You're gonna be chilling, vibing, listening to this. So, Night Shift, Larry June and Cardo. Go listen to that. Thank you guys for listening to episode 60 of the Good Look Podcast. I'm your host, Leonard Pinckney, aka Agent P. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow at the Good Look Pod, share, like all of the stuff I'll be putting out. I'll be putting out those daily Denver Nuggets talk preview or reviews, and I'm gonna keep doing out this content. So thank you guys again for listening, and I'll see you next week.